I think that in 10 years, when we'll look back in time to this season, we'll have many great memories. From Messi winning the World Cup like he was Tsubasa, Napoli getting the league title 33 years later, and Haaland looking like he could very well grow into an all-time great, there is no doubt that we'll have many stories to tell. For now, we'll be looking to 10 teams that against all odds managed to impress everyone with their incredible feats. Starting out at number 10 with Brighton and Hove Albion. The Premier League's Robin Hood team have been proving themselves to be one of the best run clubs in the world right now. Due to their excellent scouting, Brighton have been able to find terrific players that will probably leave for a lot of money. Those same players, led by the up-and-coming De Zerbi, have racked up emphatic wins over Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool and Man United, while also reaching the semi-finals of the FA Cup. At the time I'm making this video, it's unlikely that they'll miss out on European qualification, reaching the club's best top-flight position ever in the process. Let's just hope they successfully replace the departing players and add more depth to their squad, otherwise, next season will be a struggle. Moving on with a more obscure team, Rakov Częstochowa. Like I usually mention in other videos, in this channel we don't limit ourselves to the top 5 leagues in Europe. So I decided to include one of the most surprising champions in Europe, the winners of the Polish Ekstraklasa. Rakov, similar to Brighton, hadn't experienced great success in top-flight football up until this decade. But after surviving their first season in 2020, they would go on to finish runners-up in the league and back-to-back Polish Cup winners in the following 2 years. This season, they elevated themselves even more by winning the league, becoming one of the few teams in the world to win the third, the second and first division in only 7 years, always led by Marek Papszun. Number 8. Union Berlin. Continuing on with the trend of emerging teams in this decade, Union Berlin was for a while the most exciting team in Europe. They topped the Bundesliga for several match days, but ultimately fell off a bit. It's completely understandable that they don't have the experience or squad depth to compete for the title, but they're in good position to play in the Champions League for the very first time this next season. After seeing them qualifying to the Europa League, I honestly thought that they had reached their peak, but they surprised me again this season. I'm really curious to see if they can hold their own against the biggest teams in Europe, and by the looks of it, I probably won't have to wait much longer. Number 7. Arsenal. Continuing on the trend of small teams punching above their weight, we got Arsenal. Just kidding, Gunners, don't come at me with your bottles. But now, in a more serious note, Arsenal did have a pretty good season. I don't care about the fact that they essentially didn't win anything. Not so long ago, they were sitting dead last in the Premier League, and let's not forget that the Gunners' last appearance in the Champions League was a 5-1 thrashing at home against Bayern Munich. So even though they didn't win the league, they managed to sit on top of the table for the majority of the season, and now are looking set to make more money on the Champions League, which can help them a lot on retaining their young talents and perhaps even adding more stars to the team. Number 6. Feyenoord. 6 years later, Feyenoord fans can celebrate again. The team from Rotterdam impressed everyone this season, only losing once in the Eredivisie at the time I'm making this video. Their form and consistency have been outstanding, especially considering their average player age of 23, the second youngest in the league. And that leads me to give even more credit to the coach Arne Slot, who picked up a very young squad and turned them into men. Santiago Jimenez, Orkun Kökçü and David Anko are the names that stand out the most to me, and it will be interesting to see what this Dutch team will be able to achieve in the Champions League next year. Will their squad be good enough to advance to the knockout rounds? Moving on to another team returning to Champions League football, Newcastle United. Some might say that it would be expected of Newcastle to immediately have success following their big Arab takeover. But if you look at Man City as an example, you'll see that it takes time to reach a Champions League. While the citizens needed 3 years to do so, Newcastle just needed a full season to achieve it. Furthermore, it's not like their rivals have weaker sides, since Newcastle have only the 7th most expensive squad in the league. It was a terrific season for the Magpies, who presented us the rising talents of Isak, Botman and Willock, while also reaffirming the qualities of their coach Eddie Howe. Number 4. Lens. Since 2013, PSG only lost the league twice, both times to excellent sides with loads of emerging talent. Lens doesn't show the same levels of team quality that Monaco or even Lille showed, and they will most likely have lost the league to PSG by the time you're watching this. However, that doesn't take a single thing away from them, because nobody would expect Lens to be challenging for Champions League qualification, much less for the Ligue 1 title. No superstars, no egos, just a competitive side doing the best with what they have, led by Francaise, a man who loves the club and has coached them almost since the beginning of their last tenure in Ligue 1. Up next, the Portuguese giants, Benfica. 4 years have passed since Benfica have won a single trophy, but that drought is ending this year. After seeing their rivals conquer the league these past 3 seasons, the Águias realized that they had to look outside the country for a coach who could revolutionize the club. They found Roger Schmidt, who then brought several established players, passed the winning mindset to the ones who were already in the team, and the rest is history. The club spent half a season undefeated in all competitions, and despite the sudden drop of form, where they were eliminated in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, while also losing at home against Porto, they seemed destined to win the league. And let's not forget they lost their biggest player in the end of the January transfer market, which hindered them a lot. If they keep their best assets and find more alternatives to add depth to the squad, I can see them going a bit further in Europe and dominating their league. Let's hope for my club's sake that they don't. Number 2, Burnley. You might believe it's weird to see a championship side in this list, but what Vincent Kompany achieved at Burnley is remarkable to say the least. The Clarence weren't financially healthy at all, and many important players departed following their relegation. The job wasn't easy, and the margin of error was slim, so Kompany had to be precise with the players he brought in. He instilled a very attacking and more intricate style of play, comparing to the more direct and old-fashioned style of Sean Dyche. And that worked wonders in the championship, where despite a rough start, Kompany's men never dropped below first place after October. Now the question stands, will Burnley be able to survive the stronger competition in the Prem next year? Because you can come to the Etihad playing like you would against Wigan at Turf Moor. In some cases, beautiful football simply doesn't work. And finally, Napoli. 33 years later, Napoli have reached the top of the mountain. Despite losing some of their best players, the Neapolitans were able to rebuild the side, making key signings that will be fulcral to the title conquest. And it was no fluke win, because by January, everyone and their mom already knew that this title would not slip away unless something catastrophic happened. It kinda left a sour taste in my mouth seeing them getting eliminated in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, as I believe it would be far more interesting, from a neutral point of view of course, to see them go all the way to the final against a giant. Perhaps next season they could still be competitive, but it will take a great effort to keep the superstars that brought the title to Naples, and even a bigger one to replace them if necessary. Either way, the Napoli fans should just focus on enjoying this glorious moment while it lasts. And that is it for the video. Do you think that any of these teams will replicate their successful campaigns next year? Let me know in the comments and let's have a discussion. Don't forget to subscribe if this isn't the first time watching a video of mine, and since you're sitting there so comfortably, click on this video up next. You'll enjoy it for sure. I'll see you there.